on to digital transformation, integrating innovative technologies in FDI to increase value. Our moderator is Matthew Stevenson. He's the Head of Investment Policy and Practice at the World Economic Forum, and he'll be joined by the following panelists: Glenn Barkley from Global Data, Engineer Ali Abdulhaq Al-Balushi from E-Cox, Saif Ismail from Yalla Group, Kunislav Rees from Lumen Space, Benam Gurbanzada from PayZakat.global, Brittany McDonough from the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and Dr. Rathan Kelkar, Secretary of IT at GOK. Thank you very much.
Well, welcome everyone. And we're going to make this one a lot of fun. So we look forward to all of your participation, active participation. The topic today is digital transformation and investment. We all know that this is the future and it's all about digital, it's all about investment. So we have a lineup of experts here today to share with us their insights, what we should all be thinking in this space. Just to help frame, I think there are at least two different ways to think about investment and digital transformation. There's investment in the digital economy, and then there are digital tools to facilitate investment. And so on the one side, it's the companies that are thinking about investment in the digital economy. On the other side, it's the governments that are thinking about digital tools to facilitate investment. And so we're very pleased to have leaders on both sides today, on the company side and on the government side, who are working on these issues, as well as an expert on data who can tell us what's really happening, the underlying trends. But before I introduce our panelists, I just wanted to share why I was so pleased to moderate today. And that's because we at the World Economic Forum have been working on how to grow what we call digital FDI, FDI in the digital economy. And we ran a survey of investors a couple years ago to ask them, what do you need to see to invest more in the digital economy? What are the enabling policies and regulations? Cybersecurity, data governance, skills, infrastructure. We all know that we want more investment, but how can we create what I like to call digital-friendly investment climates, which may require some new thinking. And so together with the Digital Cooperation Organization, we launched the Digital FDI Initiative, which works on country-level projects, one by one, to work with companies and governments on creating digital-friendly investment climates. The first projects are launching in Pakistan and Rwanda, but more are to come, including in this region. And so we really want to help implement some of the enablers in practice. So this is why it's so important to listen to governments, listen to companies, and work in public-private partnership to enable these reforms. So with that long preamble, let me introduce very briefly our speakers, and then hand the floor to Glenn. Saif Ismail is the president of Yalla Group, the first UAE-based technology unicorn listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Welcome, Saifi. You've been listed by the Arabian Business as one of the 100 most influential people in Dubai. Glenn Barkley is chief economist at Investment Monitor, a business-to-business focused on FDI, and also head of FDI services as Global Data. So you have all the proprietary secret information that you're going to share with us. Kruno Riz is the CEO of Lumen Space, a Croatian firm that helps companies with digital transformation. Lumen Space means glimmer of hope. I think it's a great name. And Kruno has a PhD in AI and machine learning and is the author of 2 books on digital transformation. Benam Gurbanzada is the CEO and founder of PayZakat.global and a global specialist in Islamic financing, with previous positions in Sberbank and the International Bank of Azerbaijan. His team has raised and managed more than 100 billion in Sharia-compliant assets. Ali Abdulhaq Al-Balushi is the CEO of EcoX. Now, the firm prides itself on being a master in the art of managing all aspects of complicated projects, including in digital transformation. Ali was selected for Best Young Entrepreneur for 2022, and the Middle East Forbes magazine has named him Deal Hunter in Economy and Business. Welcome, Ali. And Dr. Rathan Kelkar, the Honorable, is Secretary for Electronics and Information Technology with the additional charge of income tax with the government of Kerala. You've had many different assignments over your distinguished career in civil service, but one I'd like to mention is that you've been the CEO of the Center for E-Governance of the Government of Karnataka, where you facilitated the adoption of IT solutions. So Glenn, we're going to start with you, because we like to have the data before we jump into any conversation. Please tell us what we need to know in terms of what's happening in investment in digital transformation that can help companies and governments position themselves for success.
Yeah. Thanks, Matthew, for the introductions as well. So I think, first of all, everybody should have been here at my presentation a couple of hours ago, and you get all the data insights there. So I'll try and summarize very quickly in a panel. But digitalization has been it's the number one theme. So we define a theme as what keeps a CEO awake at night. And digitalization is the number one theme that we've tracked across greenfield FDI investments. So this is not just talking about it, these are actionable projects that have been announced or have been opened. So I think that's really key. In order to set the scene, software and IT services has been the top FDI sector in terms of number of FDI projects for the last 20 years or so. We see the digital infrastructure that's being put in place. So again, before, just to touch on that, we've seen a huge influx of data center FDI, particularly in Africa. So it's about trying to, what's that next leap for Africa? So in order to become digitalized and to use technologies like AI and cloud and these other things, they have to put the infrastructure in place first. So this has been adopted in many other countries already. But there's a lot of other big tech things in there. So I mentioned cloud, there's mobile, AI, I'm sure it'll be a big topic that we'll discuss now. And AI, ironically, is a little bit further down our list. But I was speaking to our head of thematic intelligence before I came out, and he said it's one of the key, it's the major tech theme, along with energy transition and geopolitics. So we're focusing on the digital side of things. The one thing I would like to add to that is there are these other themes, such as energy transition, but again, how can we bring tech and digital aspects into that? And also, how does things like geopolitics impact what we do in terms of digital transformation? And we'll probably speak a little bit more about that from my experiences from working with a lot of IPAs in terms of the need for this. COVID obviously brought it along, where a lot of webinars were being launched, everything moved digital. But in order to attract these types of companies, everyone wants to attract the best tech companies. These guys know their stuff, and you'll hear about some great insights, I'm sure. But you need to have the people. An IPA needs to have the people on the team that's going to speak the language, and also the ability to follow through on what's being promised as well. I think that's one of the key things, where governments that actually follow through, put policies in place, follow through, but also action for companies will reap the most benefits in the future.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you mentioning a few of the industries that maybe we can talk about today. And now, for the rest of this panel, the way we're going to proceed is first to ask our investors what they see as the challenges and opportunities in this space, in their own particular business areas. And we're going to go with Kruno, Saifi, and Betnam, who all have very original and successful business models. Then I'm going to ask Ali to talk about his perspective, because he's been working with many different companies. And I'd like all of our investors in this space, our business leaders in this space, to say what they would like to see from government to support you, to open your doors, to make your life easier. This is all about growing investment in the digital economy. You've been successful. How can we scale up your success? And then we're going to ask the government to react to see if the government can help you. That's the structure here today. So Kruno, I understand that you see a lot of opportunity in Web 3.0 and blockchain. Tell us about your success and any regulatory reforms, recommendations you would like to see.
Okay, so first, thank you for having me here. Basically, you talk now about the data. You can see data all around us, but this is a lot of unstructured data. So most investors, they want to see structured data in form of reports, any kind of reports that they are interested in. So to take all those data and put it in one place, you need to build a platform. And that platform needs to be interconnected with all other platforms. Because now you have the structured platform inside of the company. With every company, government organization, NGOs, they have own data. And if you want to interchange and interoperate with those data, you need to have access, you need to get identity to see that. But what if we build a platform that it will be, let's call it on the blockchain. It doesn't need to be the name like that. It can be metaverse, it can be the name, whatever you want. Technology is underground, that it needs to be something. Investors, they don't care about the technology. They want to see the structured data that they know if they can invest. Also, if we have the platform that it can interconnect all those data that they are necessary for investment, for example, about the property, about the culture, about the population, about anything that they want to know, and that if they can just search it on their phone or tablet or computer, and then based on those data that they can decide, make decision, maybe just to, if we interconnect artificial intelligence, that we can interconnect a predictive model for the future. For example, if it will be too hot, the growth of the plants or forests will not be so good this year. Maybe it will be better next year. So based on the decision by the data, the investors can decide if they want to invest or not to invest. This is the first thing. Second thing, if they want to invest in the other currencies in other countries, we need to have something, some digital value, digital currency, that it will be instantly forwarded from one participant to another participant. Second, they don't want to lose money of exchange rate. So for example, if I'm paying something US dollars to euro or before to Croatian kunas, I would lose up to 5% of total amount of money. So it's a huge amount of money that I'm losing with every payment that I'm conducting in another foreign currency. And of course, the time. If I'm paying something from Croatia over the traditional method to United States or Australia, I need to wait for the money, or the parties need to wait for the money up to 3 working days. Today, if we are introducing something which is called smart contracting, which is basically some small computer programs, and after their execution, if both parties just satisfy the deals, I can get my money under the milliseconds with no interest rate, with just exchanging goods and services under the 1 second. So this is the advantage of blockchain and Web3 technology.
Thank you, Bruno, and I appreciate that you've come up with some very specific, points. Make the data available, digital currency usage, exchange rate, don't, lose on conversion, and time with smart contracts. So this is very practical. I think this is the best kind of panel we can have. Boom, 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 really concrete. So thank you. I'm going to turn to Saifi Ismail now. Saifi, Yalla Group is the first unicorn based in the UAE, and it's growing very rapidly. 11% increase in revenue last year, penetrating new markets all the time. So what's your secret to your success, and what kind of support have you received that you would like to, lessons learned for other governments, other companies, support from the UAE, and especially what can you tell us that you would like to see more of to support your investments in the digital economy?
Thank you, Matthew. So basically, as you mentioned, Yalla now is the leading online social networking and gaming platform in MENA, and this is endorsed by Frost & Sullivan. And during the past 3 years after we went IPO on New York Stock Exchange market, we have seen a very strong financial and operational results, as our revenue grew from 104 million US dollars to up to 304 million US dollars back in 2020. And our monthly active users increased from 16.4 million monthly active users back in 2020 to more than 32 million monthly active users in 2022. If we look to the MENA market is full of opportunities. And the population is more than 500 million. And we have very young median age with around 29 years old. So if we look also to the mobile penetration, there is a huge potential of growth as per the World Bank. as the percentage now at 76%. If we look to the online social networking users in MENA, they are around 164 million. And the gaming online users is around 134 million users. And also, if we look to the gaming industry worldwide, as per the recent report by, for example, the Newzoo Global Gaming Market, this industry generated around 184 billion US dollars in 2022, and it's projected to reach 211 by 2025. So we as Yalla, we utilized these aspects, and we knew by fact that there is a huge potential in the online social networking and gaming industry in MENA. And right after our first product, which is Yalla Life, which is a voice-centric chatting app, we started expanding and diversifying our portfolio. And we launched our first casual game called Yalla Ludo. And Yalla Ludo now is the world's most generated revenue mobile app across all mobile platforms under the board in the gaming industry or category. And right after, we introduced different games from different verticals. We have casual games, board games, card games, and now we are introducing also mid to hardcore games. And recently also we introduced an instant messaging app tailored for the MENA users called Yalla Chat. So all this portfolio and all the expansion that we made us growing year over year in terms of revenue and user base. And in terms of your question about the government of UAE support, we have received a tremendous support before, during, and after IPO. And right after IPO, we had the privilege to receive a greeting tweet from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, greeting Yalla on our IPO, followed by the Minister of Digital Economy and AI, also greeting us and supporting us. And during all the past period, we have also received continuous support from the Ministry of AI and Digital Economy, and they involved us in many strategic projects related to digital transformation and AI. Also, they selected us among 40 global tech companies to contribute to the National Coding HQ programs in UAE.
Great, thank you very much, Saifi. And it's perfect timing because a representative of the government of the UAE has joined us. At the end, Ms. Brittany McDonough. She's the head of partnerships at ADIO, the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, the IPA of Abu Dhabi, with a rich background in startups and accelerators, and from Massachusetts. And thank you so much for being here, Brittany. Brittany, just so you know, we're asking investors what they have, their experience investing in the digital economy, what's gone well, what's gone less well, what recommendations they may have from government to help them. And after we hear from them, we're going to ask the government what they think. So just to our government representative from India and yourself. Thank you. Welcome. So let's turn to Vietnam now. Vietnam, you have a very original business model with zakat, which we know, every Muslim is part of their religious duties, and you see a great opportunity in the digital space to innovate. So, can you tell us about your business and what's gone well, what's gone less well, and what you need in terms of support to grow?
Yes, thank you. The guests, participants, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. And regarding Pay Zakat, it's a platform for digital collection, distribution of zakat, sadaqah, and all, let's say, charity payments in Islam. So what did we do? So using digital channels and using digital technologies, we realized that the most important and powerful advantage for developing, any business is people. It's access to your final client and access to people and to satisfy their needs. So using this model, we set up, a decision. We set up a technology. We give opportunity to Muslims all over the world to pay their charity payments, but our technology based on blockchain and AI, and that gives you full transparency of distribution your charity payments. So you can see and you can monitor your payment from A to Z. So you can see the distribution of this payment by the charity funds. At the same time, you can choose by your own, way to send your charity payments. This model, works very nice, and we found out that one of the main advantages for our clients is transparency, and based on transparency, freedom of choice. So today, if technology gives you such opportunity to be freedom and to be 100% guaranteed on your client way, on your client decision, on your product, that gives you more opportunities to develop and to be successful in the market. And regarding the government support, as an entrepreneur, what I would like to mention. So first thing, it's a very suitable and transparent legal environment. So we need legal support. This is number one. Number two, we need access to capital, because as you know, all startups, they're growing. It's like a baby and you have to feed it. So the result will be maybe in a years. But if you stop this feeding, so startup became, non-developed. And number three is less of bureaucracy. So we don't need bureaucracy, we don't need access to capital, we need access to the market, we need flexible environment, legal environment. And if we have these three main advantages, so the startup will grow and it will bring, it's like a chain. One startup, one service, one product will definitely bring another startups and another services. And in that case, this ecosystem will develop. So this is our vision, this is how we see it, and this is our way.
Thank you, Bernam. And in fact, I think the UAE has been quite good at creating that sort of sandbox flexibility to try out different regulatory approaches to help the startups grow. It's something that we at the World Economic Forum have been working on here a little bit and plan to do more.
That's why we're moving now. We're moving now to UAE completely.
Interesting. And I guess this part of the world also is a source of capital to feed the baby that is growing. So best of luck to you in that as well. Turning to Engineer Ali. The reason I wanted you to come in now is because you work with a lot of companies. You see the big picture because you help lots of companies with their digital transformation. So now you've heard from three gentlemen and their businesses, but you've of course worked with others. What is your perspective in terms of the opportunities and challenges in investment and digital transformation, and what recommendations would you have for our two government representatives?
See, the digital transformation, it's a big sector, especially with the support of UAE government. So many sectors in the business you can implement this digital transformation, such as healthcare mainly has been, during the pandemic, it's changed or it's boomed to a big step forward after the digital transformation. After the digital transformation, during the pandemic and after the pandemic also. Such as also we are building in Keza, the big city for the cloud and the data center. So it's also including this, and the AI and artificial intelligence, also the machine learning. So business is growing very fast as ChatGPT and other companies are moving forward with these type of businesses in the market. And business are growing faster and faster with involving digital transformation. So many companies are also ignoring this and remaining with the old style minded. But big of the curve of the growth will be delayed. If he is making X amount today and he is not involving digital today with his business, so he will be late after some time, because it's like a building a company. It cannot be happened in a minute. It takes time. Starting this, implementing or integrating his business with digital transformation will grow slowly, but he need to start, in different sector. Depends on his business or his investments. Even in real estate today, they are building 3D buildings, and also so many digital enhancement has been engaged in this. You can just imagine it's in real estate or in construction. What about the portals and IT businesses, cyber securities, clouds, logistics, and etc. in the market?
Thank you, Engineer Ali. You're right. If you don't digitally transform, you're going to lose market share, you're going to fall behind, and you might gradually go out of business. So you need to keep up with the changing world. I'd like now, and sorry for our government representatives to give you so much work, but you've heard from 4 private sector voices, and it would be really great to hear your reactions. Let's go first with our host, Brittany. So you work in audio, and you work on investment facilitation, promotion, including the digital sphere. You've been quite successful in attracting investment in cloud computing. When you go back to your desk this afternoon or tomorrow, are you going to do anything differently on the basis of what you heard from our panelists today?
Yeah, so thank you so much for certainly presenting such tremendous comments. I think folks put a lot of thought into what they would share this morning. I think the main thing that I'm going back with is to reaffirm the alignment of what we call Abu Dhabi Inc. So making sure that audio is working with ADGM, working with the other government agencies, certainly around digital transformation with ADA, just to make sure that if you're a private sector person, you're entering the market here in Abu Dhabi, that you have that partner here really to work with you directly. There was comments around access to capital. I believe within that there's also access to talent and folks that are able to support your business as you're growing and thriving. And we want to be a resource in that process. So I think having forums like this where we're able to share thoughts, feedbacks, and comments are critical to that. Audio as an entity is here to support companies entering the market, but also through a growth stage. So looking at some of our partners like AWS through the Cloud Innovation Center, what does it mean to have a compelling cloud ecosystem in Abu Dhabi? And there's not just access to AWS, which of course is our partner, but there's also other contenders in the market like Microsoft Azure or Oracle. So there are accesses for a company if you're building your company abroad and then moving that technology to Abu Dhabi or to the UAE. There isn't a disruption in your growth because you're able to access that same technological platform. So looking at digital transformation, I think, is also consistency and innovation. So what does that mean for a founder? So we really are here to be a partner and to present the opportunities. And again, continue to give us the feedback because we can only help the market insofar as we know that there are challenges in the market.
Thanks, Brittany. So she welcomes feedback from investors that want to invest more here in Abu Dhabi and any challenges or opportunities that they see. Come talk to Brittany. Dr. Ratan, the Honorable Secretary. We know India has been very successful in this space. I've worked with Invest India quite a bit, and the amount of FDI they've attracted is impressive. And of course, India is so strong in the ICT sector. So we'd really value India's experience in all this. What have you done to facilitate investment in the digital economy, and anything you want to pick up on from what you've heard today? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, India over the last couple of decades has been doing extremely well in attracting FDI because of the kind of ecosystem it has created and also kind of policies that we have in place. Now, when you look at the FDI per se, I think in India we have around 38%, or rather around 30%, I would say, in the sector of ICT. So information communication technology is one area which is attracting a lot of FDI, mainly because of the kind of good policies that we have and the kind of understanding we have with the private sector to attract investment. Now, looking at hearing my colleagues speak here on the forum, I would like to say that the government is not left behind in understanding the requirements of the industry. Policy will be successful if the policy is prepared in consultation with the industry. That is what India does. And the state of Kerala that I represent, we have policies which are prepared in consultation with the industry. We have discussions with the stakeholders who are relevant for the IT policy or the industrial policy. We take their inputs, and that's how the policies are made. So there is nothing which the industry will find lacking in a policy if it is opened up, and we work together towards a particular objective. Now, in Kerala, I can give a couple of examples where we have been able to successfully get FDI. I mean, when we look at FDI, we are not just looking at capital, we are looking at knowledge as well as technology interventions as well. And in Kerala, we have been able to set up a fab lab, which is probably the first of its kind in the country, wherein we have worked very closely with MIT. MIT is supporting us in putting up that fab lab, and we are also conducting multiple courses as master trainers for the rest of the industry. That is one good example. Another example is having University of Oxford and Manchester working with us very closely for setting up of a graphene park, a center of excellence in graphene. And these are the kind of initiatives which drive the ecosystem of startups or the entrepreneurship forward. And FDI, when you're looking just at capital, then we are kind of skewed towards one particular way of thinking. But when you open up to getting investment in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology, I mean, that is where you create sustainable systems which can operate. And I think when I heard our people speak here about the support of the government, I would like to say in India and in Kerala in particular, we are far ahead in terms of understanding the requirements of the industry. We understand the industry well. We create policies and frameworks which is supportive of the ecosystem, and that is what makes things work in Kerala and also in India.
Thank you, Dr. Ratan. I think you say something very, very important, which is in today's panel we cannot cover everything, but we need a mechanism to continue working together for the industry to talk to the government once a month, once every 2 months, a standing body, so that as things come up, they can keep sharing information. And this is what we've seen at the World Economic Forum. The most successful countries have these standing bodies, these committees, which meet every quarter or so that they can keep developing the policies together. Thank you, sir. Glenn, it's great to bring you back in now because you have a bird's eye view on all of this, because you can see the needs, the opportunities, and the challenges of both the government side and the company side. So it would be great to share your insights, any thoughts you have on how the companies and the government should be thinking about these issues. And maybe they have different roles to play and different opportunities and challenges.
Yeah, so I think just a lot of echoing what's been said already. Working together collaboratively is the key. Whenever we're working with a lot of investment promotion agencies, for them it's about getting their message out there, but I feel like they need to be better connecting with the individual companies themselves. So a lot of IPAs will have stereotypical, very generalized propositions that they're approaching a very small company with in the same way that they would with a large multinational. So I think tailoring the offering as well and more understanding about what that company actually does and trying to target the right companies for that ecosystem. Ecosystem's been mentioned there quite a lot. So the IPAs will understand what their proposition is, or they should, and they need to identify their strengths. But they might know that about themselves, but it's another thing knowing how that stacks up as well against other locations. So what's your real USPs? And how do those USPs marry with some of the pressure points that a company might have? So that could be in terms of interest in expanding. It could be in efficiency saving and areas like that. So I think we have information about companies is there and is available. I think it's underutilized. There is information about the locations themselves, which companies can avail of, but connecting the dots is often missed. And again, it's about a company could approach an IPA, and there's the connection there. But how many companies don't approach an IPA that an IPA actually loses out? So they lose the race before they know that they're even in it. So I think joining the dots, from the government side of view, having more information about the companies and their movements and the key themes that they're interested in, so trying to stay ahead of key industry trends and being knowledge leaders and producing thought leadership, that's going to attract companies towards caring about your location a little bit more. And then from the company perspective, I think, one, it's reaching out to IPAs. Feel free to reach out to IPAs. Don't use intermediaries all the time. We've done some analysis and seen that for a particular region, about 50% of the organizations that they use to locate in a certain location, I'll not specify, was through intermediaries and not through an IPA. Why? So that'd be a good question, maybe to try and flow in to both the investors here, Matthew, and the IPAs themselves. So I'll finish there.
Thanks, Glenn. No, I know our IPA friends want to help. Sometimes, companies don't always go knocking on their door, but everything I've seen is they're eager and willing. So an encouragement to use that generally free resource.
Yeah.
Kuno, we're going to come back to you. You said a magic word in this space. You said the word data. And I think for the rest of the panel, I think it would be good if we talked about data, because data is so challenging but important. Data policy, data security, data flow with trust. And also I'm going to invite our panelists to think of one regulation or one action, very concrete. Either it's a good regulation or a bad regulation. The bad regulation, we need to do something about it. The good regulation, we need more of it. And let's be very concrete. But first over to you, Kuno. Data. How can the government get data policy right to unlock more investment? And I see Dr. Ratan nodding, so I'm very happy about that.
Well, data, everything around us is data. And we also have something which is called data about the data. It's called metadata. So we need to regulate those data and who can see them. Also, we need to protect those data because I strongly believe that data will be the new oil in the future. Who owns the data owns the world. Based on those data that you will provide freely or not so freely over the social media, internet, every day in your life, it can be decided in which path and which direction your life will go. If you are doing the traffic violation on the street, the camera maybe will record it, and based on that, you will get some penalties, or maybe you will lower your social credit score, like you have something similar which is implemented in China. So you need to protect those data, and we have one policy, is GDPR policy inside the European Union. This is General Protection Regulation of Data, and now they will update those policies in which we need to protect our privacy. And if we want to share some private data inside of the internet, on the internet, we need to give consent on that, on those data. So we have many ISO standards about those data, and one is 27001 policy, in which we have some regulation that companies need to implement if they want to protect their own private data. So we are giving private data every day across the internet. Based on those data, companies can extract those data and serve us products, offers, services, and based what we are doing and how we are behaving, artificial intelligence can give the predictive models and put it somewhere in the storage on the cloud. And whenever you search something online, they will recognize your pattern of the search. And based on that pattern, what you are searching, they will offer you some kind of the products. Even if you are just staying now near your mobile phone, and if you didn't protect it well, and you are talking about the Maldives, about vacation, about the watches, be sure that Google will serve you those similar data next time when you search something. So Booking.com is one of the examples that they will serve you the data about destination that you will go, that you will try to search online. So you need to protect data. We have GDPR. In other states, you have some similar acts from the government acts. I'm not sure what is the name of those acts, but I'm very familiar with the GDPR and how to protect data inside of the European Union.
Thanks, Truno. And I know this is a tricky topic, we don't have to have all the answers, but I do think it's good to face it head on because different governments have different regulatory approaches to data, and this can have implications for the opportunities for investment and also for economic growth. But anybody who wants to protect their data and not let the machines listen to them, talk to Kruno, he'll help you out.
Thank you.
I'd like to just open it up to others who want to come in on this topic. If anybody has opinions, data, investment, good regulation, I can call on people, but if anybody has views?
I'll just
Glenn.
say one thing very quickly. It's just openness. So just to give a very practical example, if we're doing some analysis, the US is the number one outbound market for FDI. If I'm doing some analysis on US locations, I can get down to a job specific level salary data. So I can tell the salary data by state, by MSA level. That's all through the Bureau of Labour Statistics. I can see employment levels. I can see university statistics. So it gives me a good idea of cost and quality factors. Now, if I'm a US company that's wanting to invest, even in Europe, but Africa, Middle East, Asia, a lot of that data is not available. And so that would be my call to action in terms of openness and providing that information. So what Kruno said there, in terms of making data available, so provide the intelligence so that companies can make very informed decisions, and the governments and the IPAs that do that will be at the forefront of the decision-making process.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Thanks, Glenn. We call it data-driven analysis. So talk to Glenn for the latest data. Mr. Saifi, I'd like to bring you in because I understand that your business is across most of the world, including research and development in China, the largest social networking app in the Middle East, and then of course also growing operations in Latin America. So you have a global view of how these things work in different parts of the world. So any thoughts about your experience in terms of good regulation and investment in digital transformation and you can see different markets operate in different ways? We'd love to hear your experience comparing and contrasting these different regions or approaches.
Sure. Thank you again, Matthew. So let me talk first about the digital infrastructure of UAE, which enables any digital company to pioneer and have a successful operations. If we look to the UAE as a digital economy, UAE is one of the most advanced countries who utilized the modern technology. And if we look to the competitiveness ranking of the IMDs, it's ranked globally number 13 and number 1 in Middle East. If we look to the telecommunication and digital infrastructure, and this is as per TDRA, UAE is number 1 worldwide in terms of the internet speed of the smartphones, and rank number 2 in terms of the smartphone internet usage. With all these leading digital infrastructure, any company who operates from UAE can easily success. What we did is we utilized the expertise of the global talents in China, and we built our R&D centers over there, and we utilized the digital infrastructure of UAE to be the headquarter for us to target the MENA users. And these combinations enable us to be a leader in terms of our industry, and also enable us to touch the untapped markets in Middle East, North Africa, even Latin America, as you mentioned. We have introduced games that tailor to them. And by this, I think this is the recipe behind any company who could survive and success. And also, I appreciate your decision moving to UAE, because this will basically help you to grow your business and reach to all countries. And we have seen also a series of initiatives managed by the UAE government to help the digital economy, like the Coder HQ I mentioned before. Also, they launched the digital strategy program where they want the digital economy to be contributing double in 10 years. Also, recently they launched the national UAE program for AI. And not only UAE, we have seen also our neighborhood, Saudi Arabia, putting lots of efforts to grow the digital business by introducing gaming companies and esports business in Saudi Arabia. So the whole region is focusing into the digital and gaming and online social networking in particular.
Thank you, Saifi. And what I really heard you say very clearly is the UAE got right the amount of investment in digital infrastructure, which is the enabler. And I think China also is, investing quite a bit. And so maybe that's what we need to ask governments to help us with before companies can be successful. You need that fundamental digital infrastructure, which I believe India also has invested a lot in that space. The organizers have told me we don't have that much time. It's been a very rich panel. I'm going to go down the row and invite everyone to have a closing thought. Remember my invitation to name one good or bad regulation, but anything you'd like to share, if you could leave the audience with one thought that you really want them to keep in their mind. We're going to start with Glenn. We're getting up in Brittany. Brittany's going to have the last word as our host. Glenn.
Data openness. I'll keep it very short.
Say that again. Be open.
Data openness.
Data openness.
Yeah.
Very good one.
Minimum government, maximum governance.
Minimum government, maximum governance. That's cool. I want to write this down. Okay. Engineer Ali.
We can say for the FDI is the most integration technology should be involved as soon as possible to avoid any curve of collapse.
Perfect. Thank you. Bruno.
Well, Web3 is the future.
What is Web3?
Web3 based on the blockchain, decentralization of the data, and privacy.
All investors better get on that. Saifi?
Well, I would say that the future is yet to come in terms of the digital economy.
From my vision, future belongs to people who can digitalize its cultural requirements.
Very nice. Culture, the cultural side of this. Something we didn't talk about enough, but open up a new topic. Brittany.
And I think my final word is really a word of welcome. So we'd like to thank all of you for joining us here in Abu Dhabi. This is a really important stage for us to have and an important conversation to have. And we'll also be right after this having a conversation with some of the audio portfolio companies. So we want to make sure that we invite all of you guys to interface directly with the companies and the folks that are making change directly here in Abu Dhabi in the technology space. So thank you for the conversation and thank you for being here.
Thank you. And actually, I don't normally say this, but I hope somebody took notes. I took notes too, because I think this was one of the best panels in terms of rich ideas. And I hope we can capture some of these thoughts. I think they actually would help us grow investment in the digital economy. Thank you to all my panelists. Have a great day.